Okay, so the question is, why do we have to die? And like we already discussed, that death really does not exist. So body is made out of the five big elements: the air, water, earth, fire, space. And then it goes back to those places. The same molecules which are making dinosaurs is making us now. If dinosaurs were there, we were not there. Now we are here, dinosaurs are not there. Same molecules, same carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, all those things stick together to make us now. So molecules recycle. So body survives in its different forms. It survives, right? So it really does not die. So, and like we said, that the soul cannot die because soul is a spirit. And so, what dies really? So, the only thing that is left to die is the mind. And mind itself is collection of thoughts. How can thoughts die? But they feel that because the mind is so much attached to the body and it thinks that it is the body. Now, that's one thing you say, I can say my car, say this Toyota is mine. I can say that, but I don't sit in the car and say I am Toyota. And that's what the mind has been doing. Mind is sitting in this body and this I am this body. So that illusion is with the mind. So mind feels that it's dying when the body is being separated, is taken away from it, right? So that is the whole bottom line. But the question comes is, why do we have to die? Whatever the death is, why do we have to die? So the answer is very interesting. Death is all because of our karmas. Why? And the answer may shock you, but it is the reality. Because what do we do in karmas? Karma are activities that we do in the world with our name printed on it, that I am the doer, I am the doctor, I am the owner of this car, and I am the owner of this house and my families. And all these are ego driven activities, are activities. We have gone out of our ways to connect with the world to call them ours. If I stop talking to a friend of mine for 10 years, I may even forget that friend of mine. So the connection starts going down. But I keep on recreating. I call him. I call him time to time. Make sure we are connected. That's what we do all our life, right? We try to connect. We wake up in the morning. We find our keys. We find our car. Go to work. All these things, right? So all the activities which are being done in the name of you are karmas, and karmas you cannot stop. As long as you're alive, karmas are going to happen. So, karmas, you will have to make a choice. Whatever karma you do, you will have to choose. Choice of a choice is not there. There is no choicelessness when it comes to choice. If I get up from here and walk away, I have made a choice. Whenever I decide, I will go. Even if I decide that, okay, I'm sitting here doing nothing, that again is my choice that I exhibited by sitting. So sitting and not doing anything is also a choice. I go to the Himalayan mountains and sit in a cave, not doing anything, but that itself is also a karma. So there is no niskarma throughout the life. As long as we live, karmas will be always there. So what happens is, in karmas we always choose likes and dislikes. I like this. I like to go to Himalayas. I'm not happy at my home. I will walk away and go to, but that because I chose going to Himalayas and walking away from my home, or vice versa. No, I don't want to go, and I like it here. Like, dislike, like, dislike. That duality we have to deal with all the time. And that's where the problem is. So once you like, you are liable to follow the consequences of it. Say, supposing I like the daytime. I'm an outdoor person. I like the daytime. I hate nights. But nights are unavoidable. So, whatever I choose for happiness, the consequences will always come in the point of suffering. If I like Himalayas, I may go there. I make that decision right now, but all the consequences come from going to Himalayas. What is going to happen? I may have somebody to talk to there. I may have place to stay there or not. all those consequences I have to bear, which is fine. But pluses and minuses are always creating the balance of life. Life is balanced. Sukh and dukh, day and night. You cannot avoid them. Somebody says, I don't want to work because I want to sleep all day long. And so that I can also sleep, I need to do a practice of sleeping. It doesn't work that way. You cannot just sleep and say, okay, I'm going to sleep 24 hours. It doesn't work that. At some point, you're going to get up and start doing some things. Now, if you do a heavy duty, like very aggressive activities throughout the day, then you have a good night's sleep at night. So that's a balance. Work during the daytime, sleep and rest at night. Both the phases, you have to accept it. So when you are ready to accept both, then you start developing a balanced state, which is samatva, samyak state. Samyak state is where you disappear. Because supposing you have suffering going on, right? So you don't go through the suffering. You're not ready to accept the suffering. So what happens? You reject it. It says, no, I don't want to go through this suffering. I complain, this and that. Instead of doing that, so I do halfway justice to suffering, right? So even though I'm going through suffering, though I am going through suffering, I'm rejecting suffering also at the same time. So what happens in the mind level? My 70% is suffering, the 30% is looking for a way to escape. So what happens is when the suffering is over, my experience of suffering was not 100%. So I am leaving the suffering, and the happiness comes after that. But that 30% of the mind which was still suffering and feeling the consequences of that inequality of suffering, I'm not going to be able to enjoy the happiness either, because it stays as a memory. The suffering stays in my mind. So all this suffering happens. So I don't go through the suffering 100% and keep on wishing for the happiness while I'm suffering instead of actually suffering. And then at the time when I'm enjoying the happiness, I cannot enjoy the happiness 100% either, because in my mind, that experience of the suffering is still there. So it does not let me enjoy the happiness fully either. So this is the reason why especially when you're suffering, you accept it. You go through the 100% suffering without any complaints. And then you go through, so you are not creating any karmas. Karmas are what? Karmas are not something physical. Karmas are your actions, but what impressions do they leave behind in your mind? And that's where you're building the karmas. So that's where I'm going to. So by rejecting the unhappiness, what you did was created a segment in your mind where you hate happiness, you hate happiness, you hate happiness. And then it becomes perpetual. The next time you immediately will reject again, because there is unhappiness, there is suffering. And this becomes a pattern. So now this life, you decided that, okay, this is what gives me the suffering. And these are the things that make me happy. So what are you going to do? When the time comes for death, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose happiness over suffering, right? So when you choose something, now you're not free from samsara yet. Remember, you're not in that samyak state yet. So what happens is you choose the happiness, so you need body. Say, supposing I like mountaineering and I died, or whatever happened, or I could not do it. Even if I wanted to, my underlying desires stay behind. And then when I die, I say, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have avoided the suffering. I wish I could have climbed this mountain, whatever, right? So when you die, your desires don't die. So the mind feels that it's dying, but it's not dying. The desires are still there. And that's why the body has to come back. And body needs to be created for you, right? So why do we have to die? Because we were created. Because our body was created for us, for the underlying, the Hiranyagarbha, where all these desires and vasanas are hiding. the state of Hiranyagarbha. So that's asks for the body, and the body is created. And that is the rule of this world, that whatever is created has to die. Again, we may equate the creation with the pleasure, and we always do. The kid becomes 1 year old, say, let's celebrate because somebody's born, right? So we equate birth with the creation with happiness. So subconsciously, we are rejecting the death also. So when you accept the birth as a joy, you also negate the death. And that's again the duality, the same duality we are suffering. So we don't have to respond to any of these things, especially the suffering part. Death, we have to start accepting right now that, okay, but how do we do that? That's where the meditation comes in and proper understanding comes in, that whenever the suffering comes, you go through that without any rejection. Because maximum rejection, of course, happens at the time of death. And more you reject, more there is a reason that you have to be born again. Because rejecting the death, loving the life, what do you think the consciousness is going to do? Going to make you be born again. And consciousness is not a doer. It doesn't do anything. These are the basic rules written in the godliness. And what is the rule? Samyak state. Itself, the godliness, the consciousness itself is in a samyak state. So anything that is born out of it, we has to return to it. So you must have read my posting today that everything that is born has to die. All the trees that grow, they have to come back to the soil. So there is a state underneath within us flowing right now. It is the samyak state. But we cannot reach there because we are so busy sorting out the likes and dislikes. Because of our likes and dislikes, we reject this, we accept this. In that duality, the chakkar of duality, we never come out. So the samyak state is the state that you can experience within and start influencing your decisions. Whatever happens, you accept it. Joyfully accept it. That, okay, this is where my karmas are being wiped away. How are they going to be wiped away? Only when you go through the suffering in acceptance. So your old karmas, which are bringing the sufferings, you will go through without complaints, no problem. And of course, when the good karmas come, you don't get carried away either. Say you got too much money or fame, happiness, all those things. Then he says, okay, what else do I need? I'm happy. But don't forget, happiness is always followed by unhappiness. The more you are happy with the happiness, the more suffering you will have in the state of unhappiness. So again, we never come out of it. So samatva is a state which is within us. Lao Tse called this Tao. Tao is the universal godliness, universal consciousness, from where things arise, they leave, and they die. But go back where? In that samatva state of godliness. So that is hidden within us. And that is our progenitor, where we are born and will die. And why itself doesn't die? Because it was never created. We are created, so we have to die. So that is the ultimate answer. Why do we have to die? Because we were created. Because we chose the form. We chose this body. By every single desire, we are choosing another body. Every single desire comes up, we choose another body. So I starts becoming stronger and stronger. I have certain likes. I have certain dislikes. Every time, whether you have likes or dislikes, you're defining yourself that it's me, 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 me. And that individualization never lets you connect with the consciousness, which is undivided. It's like a space where the clouds are there, right? A cloud is born, and there are other clouds are born. They fight with each other, clash with each other. Thunderstorms get created. Some of the clouds get broken down. Some of them get recreated, whatever it is, but they are born in the space, in the sky. And then eventually they disperse. But the sky never disappears. Why? Because The clouds are active. The activity of life, which is desire driven, is creating the karmas. And when it creates the karmas, it has to come back as another cloud. But the sky itself, the space, is never created. It's never created, so it doesn't have to die. It's eternal. So to merge into that eternal state, you have to start inner engineering, like Sadhguru says. You have to re-establish where your patterns are in the mind, your desires. Why is it running? Where is it running? What can I do? That's where the ultimate teaching comes in, is go back, go back, go back, and merge into this formless consciousness and stay there. Nisarg Datta Maharaj always says that don't fight thoughts with another thought that, okay, I'm going to do this, these are only thoughts. You cannot decide. You are the mind right now, and mind cannot kill itself, right? So we have millions of thoughts. You cannot just say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to have any thoughts anymore. I'm not going to react to the situation. You cannot decide. You have to find where the thoughts are arising from. Go to the source. When you get your thoughts in meditation, try to find out, where did they come from? From nothingness. There was nothingness where it arose. There is no particular one thing that you can say, okay, thoughts are arising from that. No. And when thoughts disappear, where do they go? This formless state of consciousness. And that's the most vital state. This most important existence, because it's non-doing. The space does not do anything. We are the doers. We do things and build up the karmas. So the balance has to be found in between, where you transcend your mind, transcend your ego. You still act in the world, but not for yourself. You act for the world. That's where you connect with the cosmic consciousness. But that comes slowly, and then ego also dissolves slowly. As it keeps on going, whatever happens in your life, you accept it. Suffering comes, no problem. It's fine. That's the niyati. See, niyati is an interesting word, because niyati is, we always say that, and we say all those ladies, 80, 90-year-old, they say, oh, Bhagwan ne kiya aisa kya. But they had a theory that they are in a very deep state, because they can connect whatever you cannot see or touch or smell or whatever taste, that you put it behind, because there is no way to know this consciousness, but it's there. That you find the thoughtless space within your mind. And that's when you realize that that's where everything is arising from, but you cannot see how the thoughts arise. It's not like a factory, then you can just go and check it out. It's not as simple as that. So you have to put a faith in it. It's there. That's where the thoughts are coming from. That's even in between the thoughts, there is a space. Space never disappears. And after all the thoughts end, then also space is always there. In a thoughtless state also, that formless state exists. So it arises, but there is no way to know how it arises. There is no way. A human body is made. How is it made? Nobody knows. Mother and father thinks that they did something. No. But who did to them? Who controlled their hormones? Who created their desires within them? All this thing is niyati. So your karmas, where they take you, becomes your niyati. But from now, this point onward, it's your spiritual path that's going to make you release from the karmas. So ultimately, the question comes, why do we have to die? Because of our karmas. Karmas are responsible for having a body, and once you have the body, you have to die. So much for today. Thank you.